Melissa, anything that comes to mind for you first?
Oh, I don't want to call out customers. We work with lots and lots of what typically comes.
I won't make you do it.
We
I
know
won't
you
make you
don't, Melissa. We know you don't. It's fine.
In times of crisis, right? They're either getting audited or they've realized way after the fact that they, you know, they should have remitted certain taxes or they should have collected additional taxes because they were transacting in a certain area that they didn't account for.
Oh my
So,
God.
I mean, knowledge is power, and then just I mean, now we're in an age where most people are having automated solutions that can keep up and integrate. Before, I think in past conversations, we're like, don't try to do this on your own. Like, it'll be a mess. I think we're past that. It's just make sure you're picking a vendor that is changing with the speed of technology. If you have an on-prem disparate, they're not going to be able to keep up. You might have to refresh or implement a new integration that's missing those components. So I don't want to call out any names, but we've definitely had lots where customers were like, oh my gosh, like this has cost me multiple millions of dollars, mistake that I didn't realize. And that could sink a business, right? So that's just the we like to focus on the areas for way to expand them and have them make more money. Areas you can you have exemption certificates. You don't need to pay tax here and here. Just make sure you track this and keep this voucher. That's the fun stuff we try to do. But ultimately, we just got a lot of war stories. So we're trying to. I appreciate you letting me speak on podcasts like this to be like, let's get ahead of it. So.
Right. Well, no, I think it's so important too, because I mean, it's just tackling those things can be overwhelming for the audience listening, like at any time of the year, but on top of, the holiday season, when you are at, peak traffic coming to your site and you're trying to get things delivered on time, like it's not the time to be faced with these types of crises.
Right.
Yeah, and retailers want to relax after the holidays. Yeah, they don't want to go back and true up their accounting mistakes, Like that's the last thing any retailer wants to do.
Right. Well, Natalija, I'd love to hear from you too, because I'm sure in your role, you see all kinds of examples. What are some kind of watch outs that you would give the audience?
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, I totally forgot that I came here to promote my podcast and I forgot to mention it in my intro. So I just want to say I'm also the founder and host of the Salesforce Commerce Cloud Innovations podcast. And the story I'm going to tell today is actually a story from my colleague who's going to interview on the podcast. So it's not my story. Yeah. But I will shout out and say, sorry, Salesforce has 100% uptime during Cyber Week, so I don't really have any horror stories. But I will speak to non-Salesforce customers. So I think something that's come up for us and is this idea of a commerce island. We have a lot of single point vendors that are focused and purpose built for single function. But what's happening with e-commerce is we're noticing more and more that the E is getting dropped, and E is not e-commerce anymore. It's actually just commerce. And so this concept of omnichannel is kind of going away, and we have commerce anywhere. And so data is becoming more and more important. So of course we've got Data Cloud. We're releasing Agent Force, and we're releasing a ton of stuff to connect and personalize. And I think actually the personalization is where the mistakes happen. So I'll give you a story. I actually don't know who it is, but my colleague's mother-in-law was purchasing a wedding dress, or a dress for a wedding. And she bought it, got it fitted, loved it, took it home, but she had shopped and researched for it online and left a version of that dress in the cart. And then she went in store and purchased it. And 3 weeks later, or sometime later, the retailer sent her 30% off promotion for things in her cart when she had already purchased the item.
Oh, wow.
And can you guess what she did? She returned the existing dress and bought the dress online again. And so this is another sort of similar to Melissa's example. It's kind of leaving money on the table because you're not connecting your order history with your abandoned cart information, and you're not actually understanding where the customer is in their journey. And so you're giving out uncoordinated promotions. You may be losing 30% of that sale that you've already made. So you're losing sale. You're sort of losing money post-purchase, but then also you're giving the customer a bad taste because they'd already paid for that dress, already settled on it, was very happy with it. Now she had to go through this whole rigmarole of return and purchase, which was a hassle. Even though, hey, good news is she got 30% off, right? But that's a great example of what we want to avoid, especially during the holiday season. You don't want to double tax transactions.
Yeah, you don't want to leak profit either as a result, right?
Exactly.
That's the key there.
Well,